All right. So we are officially live. Um, Good morning, everybody, as you're coming into the room. I'd like to start off by introducing myself. I am Paul Gazone. We're assistant principals at Oceanside High School. I'm here with our assistant superintendent, Diane Provito, as one of our guest commentators, and Robert Schulman, who is a prosthetist, and he works with our Project Extra students at Oceanside in Oceanside for our grades 4th, 5th, and 6th students. So just a reminder, hey Joe, how's Joe? I see. I told Ms. Provito and Rob that we get our two students who come pretty frequently, and Joe and Vincent, thanks for showing up and being here every day. You know, I keep saying it, but we're here for you guys. You know what? I'm gonna just read a little bit of a statement because today's a special day because we're not only are we focusing on the career and path of Rob, but we're also celebrating the work of our 6th grade students in Project Extra. You know, Oceanside's Project Extra students come from all 6 elementary schools to raise awareness and funds for the Limcon Foundation and this year's charity event, I Am Love. Written by Susan Verde and illustrated by Peter Reynolds, I Am Love is a beautifully inspiring picture book that is a celebration of love in all its forms. Oceanside's Project Extra students, with the support of Oceanside High School students, created an inspirational video recording of I Am Love, which I will post a link to in the chat box in a little bit. That was to be shown at the kickoff to their charity event today. When we heard about this and the cancellation, Allison, who will be here in a minute or two, and I looked at this as not only as an opportunity to explore a unique career as a prosthetist, but also as an opportunity to celebrate the work of our Project Extra students district-wide. And the teacher, Miss Angela Ben, as we are #stronger together, right? That's the message that we've been sharing since this ordeal has happened. So the mission of their chosen charity, the Limcon Foundation, is to improve the lives of children with limb loss, both domestically and internationally, by strengthening the amputee community and providing pediatric prosthetic care for all. Our 6th grade Project Extra students have raised over $13,000 for the foundation this year. In addition, the students raised funds to have Limcon volunteers bring 30 copies of I Am Love, along with 30 matching Beanie Babies to the children of Ethiopia receiving free prosthetic care from the foundation. Amazingly, these students have raised over $30,000 for the Limcon Foundation over the last 3 years, and that's something they should be truly proud of. As one of the final projects in this 3-year Project Extra program, the annual 6th grade charity project gives the students an opportunity to give back and share their gratitude. The students would have given their big check to Mr. Robert Schulman, founder and executive director of the Limcon Foundation, today at their I Am Love event. So although all our Project Extra students can't be here with us right now, we're happy to have shared their story and grant them a big check opportunity today with Rob here right now. So that's a little bit of the story of Project Extra and the stuff and the work that the students have done and the work that you've done with the students, Rob. So can you maybe just start off by talking to us first about your experience with working with our Project Extra students?
Yeah, sure. Well, first, thanks for having me on the show, Dr. Gazone and Diane Provito. I appreciate being here today with you guys. Well, you know, I've been a prosthetist for over 20 years. And honestly, I feel like one of the luckiest people to not only have an occupation where I get to help people every day, but every day is a new day and it makes me feel great. You know, there's always a great experience. I was doing some speaking about, I guess it was a few years ago at School 5 at my niece and nephew's school, the elementary school, and talking about some of the volunteer work that I was doing and talking about being a prosthetist. And one thing led to the next, and someone said, "You got to speak to this teacher over at Project Extra, Miss Haben. They really would love to have you on, you know, over and talk about 3D printing and possibly do something along those lines." So we met, and you know, I as a child never had the opportunity to have a teacher like Miss Haben, someone that could be so believing in you. Hi, Dr. Rogers. And right from the get-go, she really just pulled me in and loved what we were doing. And she just adopted us into the Project Extra family. So I feel very fortunate. It's been amazing. We've done lots of really neat projects with the kids there. They've learned what we have been doing as an organization and gotten involved in so many different ways. And it's just an amazing experience to really bring what we do to the children and have them bring a whole life of its own into the Limkine world and watch them run with it. And of course, they're supporting our organization by raising incredible amounts of money for these young kids. So thank you. I need to give a really great shout out because I know they're all watching. Miss Aben and the Project Extra Children right now have today would have been the celebration for all their hard work. And Miss Aben stayed up tirelessly. I don't think she ever went to sleep last night, putting together a bunch of videos so we can virtually be together on the 31st, which is exactly the day we were going to get together. So I'd like to give a shout out to everyone in the Project Extra land there.
Hi, everybody.
To everyone there. We usually have a very big celebration, having a virtual celebration.
I also want to give a shout out to Miss Aben because she's done she's a big supporter of the program that Alice and I have put together, and for today she did a lot of the promotion, so took a little pressure off of myself and Alice, and so thank you so much. So Rob, and first off, please refer to me not as Dr. Gazone but as Paul, and Allison as Allison. We're very informal here. We're keeping it light. Okay. And I'm gonna give some shout outs to the students who are coming in and posting in a little bit, but you guys keep on posting. If you have questions, please comment, please add those posts, and we'll have Rob speak to those questions in a little bit. But so talk to me about your career, right? Maybe explain to our viewers, what is it that you do? What does that look like? And what inspired you to move in that direction?
Sure. So, back, I'm giving away my age here, but back in the day when I was thinking about an occupation in high school and getting towards college, I had no idea what I wanted to do. All I did know is that I love to help people and I love to tinker with my hands, whether it be a woodworking project, Legos, erector sets, whatever it may be. I was researching up to figure out what type of career choice I could actually do in that. And one day I was reading this magazine article about a prosthetist in Buffalo where I'd been going to undergrad. And I said, wow, I could help people and make something at the same time. So I called the guy up because it was a little pre-internet. And he gave me all these, a whole stack full of magazines about being a prosthetist. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. Because all I had heard about it by this point, when you think about occupations, things that you read about or you just know about, the main 20, 30 occupations. I'd never heard of being a prosthetist. That was something totally new to me. And I called up this one local guy in Buffalo, and he let me spend the day with him. And I was just hooked from that moment on. I knew it was for me. So I went back to school to be a prosthetist, and the rest is history. Every single day is a blessing. It's wonderful. I get to work with people with limb loss or amputees. I get to work with doctors. I get to work with physical and occupational therapists, and all of the people that take up this clinical team, the family members, the social workers, and everyone that works with the actual patient. And I get to, like when someone goes to see the dentist, that's a bad thing. They get nervous and it's like a horrible visit. When they come to see me, they're always very happy because usually by the end of it, I have someone walking or using an arm or something for the first time. So they're always very happy to see me. So it starts off good in that sense that they have a smile on their face. But it's really, truly amazing to, feel that you've made a difference in someone's life day after day. So I feel fortunate to have not only found a career that I enjoy doing, but it's become a passion.
So maybe I'll jump in at this point because it's interesting about what you said. You had me thinking a lot about how you had this seed idea. You started with this little idea and you were able to scale it up. And yesterday we heard Councilman Desposito say that he's on your board.
Yes.
So this amazing little idea and this wish to help others, you were able to grow and make into something that is impacting so many more people. Our Project Extra Kids exemplify that as well. And Mrs. Aben, they connected, and that connection has grown over the years to such a large extent and to help so many people. So I'm wondering if you have any thoughts for our students out there who do have seed ideas or a passion, and how can they get started on the road to building that and to grow it?
Absolutely. So a really interesting story. When I was first getting involved in the nonprofit world and just being a volunteer, it was something I did because I wanted to do. It was purely just something I felt good about doing, and I knew I was helping people when I do things with Camp No Limits, which is a camp for amputee children, and then I started to go to Haiti from an organization called Living Water Children's Center Fund. And I was doing these different things of volunteerism. And I said, I'd like to do a walk. I said, and, I kind of used that pun out on a limb because it was, something pun with the words and everything. So I said, to myself, I said, I think I want to do a fundraising walk. Why not? I'm going to call it the Out on a Limb Walk. But I kept it to myself for a long time because honestly, I didn't have the confidence to think that I could do such a big thing. And I got the application from the Long Beach, city of Long Beach, and to have a walk on the boardwalk. And I held on to this application. I said, I can't do this. Am I going to have a big walk or something? And I filled the application. I held on to it. And I said, well, I just don't have to tell anyone. I could put the application in. I still don't have to tell anyone because I could always back out. And I put it in. And they got back to me rather quickly, and I got permission. And then I made a Facebook post. And I said, well, it isn't official until I put it in. Because I didn't know if I believed in myself that I could do such a thing. And one day I just sat over the button and I just kind of made myself push it. And once I pushed that button, I said, oh, I guess now I got to do it. And once I started that and I started to, put into fruition, I was so nervous that no one's going to show up for this walk. It would be myself and my family walking down the boardwalk. And that day on the very first walk, I think we had 250 or some odd people there. And we had everyone wearing these light blue shirts that had the logo and everything on it. And I remember standing up on top of one of those the benches on the Long Beach boardwalk, and I was standing in the back, and I looked at everyone in there, and I saw this sea of blue, and it was that moment that I said, "Wow!" I saw what I had accomplished, and it was a great feeling. Saying, "Really, you really," and it sounds quirky, but you could do anything you put your mind to. And at that moment on, it was like there was not one thing now from that moment on I was ever going to stop myself and challenging myself from doing. So then everything just kept on growing, and I kind of gave myself a challenge. I said, okay, well, let's make it bigger, and then let's make it this. And before you know it, I decided that I knew that my one trip to Haiti wasn't enough. I knew I could do more. And I challenged myself to start my own nonprofit organization and make it where instead of one person going to Haiti, let's take a team of people. And I started this nonprofit organization, and we got the 501c3, a couple of years ago. And then I got that, and I said, okay, let's keep on going. And we brought a team, and then we said, let's add another location every year, and let's build a center in New York, which is our next goal. So I've kind of picked up this momentum of never, ever doubt yourself and give yourself challenges and truly just, put on the blinders and go forward. And that's really what I'm doing. And so, and to come back to your question, don't ever let anything or anyone say that something can't be done or give you restrictions. If you have an idea, you just put on those blinders and you just go forward. And even if you hit the stumbling blocks, you go around them and you make things happen.
Rob, you kind of lead it going right into my question. What were some of the stumbling blocks, and did you have ideas before this that didn't take off? Did you have any other careers or professions before this? Were there times in your life where you weren't successful, you picked yourself back up, and now you've established this amazing organization and have achieved great success? But what were some of the stumbling blocks along the way, or were there times in your life where you weren't as successful professionally or as satisfied?
Yeah, I think that I've had a whole bunch of those occur. One kind of ironic one was when we first started this. Like I had said, I called it the Out on a Limb Foundation. And I thought that, this name that I've been playing with these events was cute with the pun. And I thought it was the perfect name for everything we're doing. Well, obviously you can see that's not the name now. What ended up happening is CBS did a piece on me in the Out on a Limb Foundation, which was wonderful. It brought light to what we were doing. A lot of people watched it and donated money so that we could, support us and do more work. But it also it brought the name out. And although I had been going through a trademark, and I was just at the end where they were just about to give us this trademark for the name, this other organization in California with a very similar name, not the same, but similar, using the same phrase word or similar, sent me the riot act and sent me the, a cease and desist letter. And I was like, what, and I said, look, I was sitting there and I said, I didn't really want to get into a whole legal battle. I just started this thing. The last thing I want to do is sit in a courtroom and all this other nonsense. So I decided to just come up with a new name. And honestly, it was a blessing. It took me forever to think of this name. I don't know. I couldn't think of something. And every time I thought of something, there was something else similar. But truly the name Limkind embodies exactly what we do. You always hear us, we have this catchphrase, we say, be kind, Limkind. And really what we always try to portray is similar to, what you see in the books, from the I Am series, is to truly portray kindness. We do it through giving prosthetic limbs. But honestly, anyone can portray kindness in their own way and really share it with whoever their community is. And I think, like even with everything we're seeing now with what's going on, when we take it back a notch and we realize, the greater scale of things, that we all just need to kind of share kindness, share love, and it kind of helps us get through the day.
So, Rob, you talked about your trademark, and I have other questions, but it's something I find really interesting. I'm just curious as to what your thought process was for doing this. But when I look at your logo, Limkind Foundation, the L and the K are not capitalized. Why? I mean, that definitely was a purposeful decision. Out of curiosity, why?
Thanks for asking. You're the first one that's ever asked me that. Well, obviously, what we do is only for children.
That's what I thought. Yeah,
these for kids. I've been a prosthetist for almost, in the prosthetic industry for 25 or 26 years, something like that. I work with children. I work with adults from 0 to 100 and whatever. But when it comes to the foundation, and I started to work with children at Camp No Limits, and I started to work with children when I went to Haiti and now other countries, I had a soft spot for the children that not only were there millions of people around the world with limb loss that don't have the opportunity to obtain one, but kids really don't have any choices. They only go here. So I felt like if we give children a chance and let them start off with the proper grounding, they could hopefully, as they become an adult, be able to make great choices as this motivated, positive adults. So I guess the lowercase Limkind was kind of to show how the foundation being a more grander word with all capitals, that us adults can help the children out is more of the mentality.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that. I was so curious about that. I knew there was a great story. So let's say a student is interested in pursuing a career in your field. What is like that process for that student, right? So they go to the middle school, high school, and we're going to cycle back to that point in a little bit also. But once they leave high school, is there a simple trajectory? Are there different paths to get to where you're doing as a prosthetist? What does that look like for students?
So the prosthetic world, when it comes to careers, I'm going to let you in on a little secret here. If you go on these career websites and they tell you there's 100%, give you all kinds of numbers and the percentages of growth within an industry and what type of careers are promising within the next 10, 20 years and all these different numbers. If you look at prosthetists, the numbers are like skyrocket because there are so few prosthetists, and every year a lot of the prosthetists that are getting older retire, and the people coming into the field never makes up for the people exiting the field. So there's definitely a huge need for it. So there's, that's a good thing to hear. There are maybe 10 or 12 schools in the country that offer the program, which really isn't a lot when you think about it. And they're pretty regional, so they're all, at different parts of the country. Right now, the industry is leaning towards that it becomes a master's program. Some of them are offering it where you can do what they call like a 3 and 2, where you're kind of mixing the undergrad and the graduate in one. I think 3 or 4 of the schools offer program. But what I could definitely recommend, because all the schools do want to see that you have some, desire or knowledge of this, that you've maybe volunteered. That's one thing, volunteered within the field, that you've spent a few days at least shadowing a prosthetist or something within the industry to really even know what we do. One of the very first things I could definitely recommend, because we don't all know a prosthetist to say, hey, can I hang out with you for a day, is go on YouTube. YouTube has a bunch of wonderful videos of like the day of a prosthetist. So you can at least start. That's a very basic way to start seeing what we do. And there's a lot of, because of the technology that we work with, there's tons of technology videos showing the different things of, he's running and jumping and mountain climbing and all kinds of really neat things. Our foundation, not only, everyone needs a lot of passion we do, because that's a huge portion of our foundation. But we also have a domestic side, and the domestic side is that running right now, we have a youth group for children with limb loss, and we have events. Things are on. But we do have events here in New York in the metropolitan area for children with limb loss, so that they can get together with other children, which I always highly recommend that they can go on our website, which is limbkind.org, and they can send me an email to volunteer, and we can connect you with our volunteer arena. We have a few different volunteer type situations for our domestic group. We also had a really neat event called Show Your Shine, which is a fashion show for people with limb loss. Everyone in the fashion show was people with limb loss. My sister, Jill Smith, she's going to hate me that I just called her out. She is an occupational therapist by trade, and she wanted to come on one of my trips. And everyone always does a little fundraising to help fund their portion of the trip. And she came up with this great idea to do a fashion show for people with limb loss only. And wow, this just blossomed into one of the most amazing days. She did a fantastic job putting this on, and it turned into a huge, huge thing that Channel 4 Today Show actually was there with us. And check that out. That was a pretty neat thing to and so obviously we'll be doing that every year, but we utilize volunteers for that event as well. So, come back. That's another thing that people could volunteer, just to kind of at least be around people with limb loss and be around our world to see, what it's like, and to learn not to stare, because it is something different. People don't know how to act or react when they're around someone with limb loss and something they might not have seen before.
So just to recap for our students, as far as if they had a passion for pursuing a similar career, you mentioned terms like bachelor's degree and master's degree, and we have a lot of our younger learners on right now. And I just want to clarify for our kiddies, right, who are maybe like 5, 6, 7 years away from pursuing that career field, is after high school, you have a bachelor's degree, which is essentially a 4-year program, and a master's degree, which is essentially a 2-year program on top of the bachelor's. So for our younger students out there who are looking at potentially entering in this career field, after high school, you're looking at maybe between 5 and 6 years before you can become a bona fide prosthetist. And that's just something interesting to know. But now think back to middle school, and then maybe, elementary school, right, and high school, right? So what are some opportunities for students to take advantage of to maybe build some of their build on their curiosity of building, right? Because essentially, as a prosthetist, that's what you do, right? You're building things, right? So what are some opportunities you think students should take advantage of in that aspect?
Yeah, it's interesting, because I have the opportunity to, with my connection with the Oceanside schools, starting with Project Extra, and we're starting to think about more things that we can offer our students here in Oceanside, because it's such a unique field. Right now you can get into my world of prosthetics if you're even on your own, by starting to think about some of the 3D things, 3D printing. It's a little complicated, but if it's something that really intrigues you to get into the CAD world, or computer aided design, and CAD CAM in the manufacturing aspect, that is definitely related to not only what we're starting to do now, but what you will definitely see in the future. So I highly recommend getting into that field, is the CAD CAM. You can go on the different websites that, like Tinkercad, which is a wonderful program that gets you the basic tinkering, without one of the words there, with the CAD system, the designing of these things. I think that's a great way to start, especially by the time the kids are now in middle school. I mean, in middle school or adults, that will definitely be a huge prevalent part of what they're doing. So that's a great way to just even start.
Allison, you're muted, Allison.
Sorry, some people like that. We use Tinkercad in the middle school. All the students in their STEM experience use Tinkercad. So that's
awesome.
Here.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you also, Rob, you mentioned that you always kind of knew you wanted to do something to help others. What kind of things were you involved in middle school and high school that you saw that you had this passion for helping others?
Let's see. I did a few different volunteer things. I remember I volunteered with Make-A-Wish.
Oh yeah.
Which was an amazing organization. Obviously, it was fantastic. It was a little tough, in the principle of what they do, but it felt great. I knew what I was doing felt good. I definitely, right off the get-go, I knew that was something that, you do some hard work and you're helping others and you walk away and it gives you that warm, fuzzy feeling inside. And I think that's what first gave me that
right.
Inner feeling.
I think we should give a shout out to your sister. I just saw she said hello. Hi, Jill.
Hey, Jill.
Hi, Jill.
And Jill's been wonderful as a part of my organization, not just as my sister, but truly, she runs a lot of the groups that we're having, the events and the youth group, and she's been fantastic.
If I could jump in just really quickly, I want to let you know that Logan is here, and Logan is the LimKind Kid Ambassador. So I figured you'd want to know that. Hey, Logan.
Hey, Logan. What's up, buddy? So Logan is the very first ambassador of LimKind. He's an awesome guy. He's I don't know if he can he say hi on this, or she's I don't see where he's saying hi. Oh yeah, well I see live comments, so we'll go like this so I can see him too. But Logan, good to see you, buddy. Yeah, he's awesome. He's I met him at a Camp No Limits the very first time, and one of the kids with the biggest amount of character. And if you ever want to hear him sing some cool songs, he's quite a singer.
Rob, I was wondering if maybe you could speak to some of the skills that our kids could develop that might be useful in your field.
Sure. Well, some of the things that drew me to the field first were being able to use your hands. Even though we're leaning towards a lot of computer things in the future and technology that involves computers, utilizing these tools are the most important things. This will never go away. And that doesn't mean you have to be an artist or a sculptor, but you have to have that sense of like to work with your hands, building, tinkering, and playing with, models or anything like that, building such. The other thing is truly to have that compassionate sense inside of yourself. If you're more of the type of person that likes business, which is great, or finance, this isn't really necessarily your field. I think there has to be a sense of working with others and having compassionate and patience for your patient is an important trait to want to enter in this field. And being able to mix those two and commingle those is like the perfect storm for this industry.
So, Rob, I think that a big part of what your career skills also is probably requires like the ability to problem solve, right? You have lots of different factors that you have to consider when you're building, extensions for students, and in that process, right? I'm sure there's lots of mistakes, and I'm going to say failures, right? And you have to kind of pick yourself up and say, hey, I can't let this stop me. I got to learn, right? Because in my opinion, failure is only bad if you don't learn from it, right? Otherwise, it's just a step in the process, right? It's part of the learning process. So, we had some game designers on the other day. We talked about failures and making mistakes, and I asked them, how do they overcome those types of things to accomplish their goal? So how do you, when you're working on a project, and I'm sure you get frustrated at times because maybe something's not working exactly how you want it, and maybe it keeps you up to 11, then you go to bed, but you're still awake till 1 o'clock in the morning, and then maybe you get up at 4:35 and you say, let me try it again. How do you deal with that? From a an operational perspective, in a sense, like, what are some steps that you take, but even from an emotional standpoint, because, like, sometimes it can become very frustrating. How do you deal with it on those two different levels?
It's very interesting that you said this. I as a prosthetist, one of the things that commonly happens is, someone comes to your office and you have to make this prosthesis. And sometimes people don't communicate and verbalize everything that's going on in their mind. Sometimes they do. But especially for the people that don't communicate, you kind of have to be a little bit of a detective. And sometimes you need to step out of yourself, and look at it from outside the box and really evaluate what you're doing, evaluate and kind of think about what's going on and why is this possibly not working? Why is this, especially when I first started, they told me in school this was going to happen and this should happen perfectly. It doesn't always work like that. Nothing in life really always works the way you think it's going to work. We didn't expect that we'd be sitting here inside. We can't even all breathe the same air because it's partially contaminated, right? We didn't think that it's going to happen. So we have to think outside the box and have a meeting like we're doing right now. It's one of those things that you sometimes have to really, truly put on just like our, governor says, put on the pause button, take a step back and reevaluate. And I've always kind of thought of that in everything I do in my life, not just work, not my passion of prosthetics, but anything I'm doing. If something is getting awry, and pause, step back, and reevaluate. And I think that you continually think of everything in your life like that. It allows you to kind of slow it down and try to work and go around the obstacles.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, and that's something that I think all our students should, and maybe all people in general, right, should follow. Because sometimes if you're too invested over, in a project, you don't take that step back. Actually, you're more likely to make mistakes, right, or build on a mistake, and it's just going to get worse than if you say, you know what, I need a break and take a step back. And that's something that I think everyone should really. That's great advice that we should all take. So, what's your favorite thing about your job? And then what has been your favorite thing about working with our Project Extra students?
So the favorite thing about my job is something that I've thought exactly was my favorite part for my entire career. And when I came out of school and I made my very first prosthesis for this woman, and she was so nervous. She was shaking. She was so nervous. And she was sitting there with her husband, and she wasn't sure if life was going to be the same. And she stood up, took that deep breath, and she walked across the parallel bars and back. And everyone in the room, there was not one person who, all the family members, the therapists and whatnot, who didn't have a tear in their eye and knew that life was going to be okay. And watching someone take their first steps will always be my favorite part of the job. And it happens in my occupation. It happens with Limb Kind. It happens with everything. When you see someone take that first step and they look up and they're looking like, oh my gosh, I'm doing this. And they get that feeling of accomplishment. Nothing will ever trump that. That is definitely my favorite part of my job. As far as my favorite part of working with Project Extra, I get to see what I do, especially with Limb Kind, internationally with a remote team in which we bring a creative team, a bunch of photographers, videographers, one professional photographer. Her name is Miss Simmons, who's amazing. I was lucky enough to have her on my team. She's my creative director, who brings the most amazing photographs and brings it to life to share with the rest of the world when we come back, and videos. Roberto and everyone else from my team. And when everyone else sees it and then they take it and then they run with it, I mean, these kids, not only have they done their own fundraisers, but they've actually, have done fundraising, they've done their own. I mean, one child is raising enough cans to raise hundreds of dollars on her own. Another child is making bracelets to sell during the quarantine time to raise money for Limb Kind, and they've taken them aside to learn how to truly be kind amongst all the other students who have done such an incredible job in putting in their passion and selling things at their schools and everything. So to see the life come and the kindness exude out of these kids is just amazing. I feel, not only are we making prostheses for children, but we're teaching domestically, we're teaching children how to be kind in their own manner. So that in itself is priceless.
Well, Rob, thanks so much for sharing that information. And I think, I think the work that you do professionally is really an inspiration to a lot of people, but also that, you put your time in, you volunteer with the community and try to grow our young people as fine adults, right? Or who will become fine adults. And it's very, it's courageous in some ways. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Before we sign off, we always like to kind of ask like a similar question at the end, and it's we've been pretty fortunate for the people that have come on. They love the work that they do, and they're passionate about the work. So they found the intersection of work and passion, and we've been fortunate to have those type of people come on our show. What advice would you have for anyone out there about how to do that, right? Because there are a lot of people out there that, when they leave school, whether they go on to college or not, maybe they're good at something and they have a job, and maybe they're not really happy about that job. They don't love that job, and
Right.
or vice versa, right? So what advice do you have for our young learners about, how to find that perfect balance of loving what you do and taking your strengths and skills and matching that?
I say these same things to my two children. I think it's this type of advice. I really think, we live in New York. It costs $1 gazillion to live here. So obviously, finance is always on the back of our minds of thinking what we should do as a career. But on the same note, we live a long life, and we work for a really long time, and we work a lot of hours in every week, month, year, and a lifetime. You really need to enjoy what you do, and you really need to have passion within it. It's very difficult to actually find and know what makes us passionate. I like fishing. Do I necessarily want to do it as a career? Is that my passion? Not really. I do it for my Zen moments and my enjoyment. But truly to find something that makes you feel real good inside, and it gives you a sense of accomplishment. It gives you a sense of self-worth, and know that you're making a difference, not just to help others. If being an accountant is you feel passionate about helping others, helping people financially sound, choose that career and run with it, and find how you can make a difference and how you can be the best accountant that you can be. Don't settle. Don't just kind of go la-di-da through life. Make a difference and be the best of whatever it is that you think you want to do and what you have a passion for. Don't just pick an occupation and just kind of do it. So truly find what seems to, stick strong in your head, something that really, really makes a difference in your mind, and then take that to like the nth degree. Take it and run with it, and truly make a difference in the world by doing the best job you can be at that passion.
And I think it takes baby steps too, right? And just to kind of go back to your example of when you started that walk on Long Beach, right? Like it started with an idea. You didn't know where it was going to go, but the first step was, submitting the papers, right?
Yeah,
so, you don't have to look at your career at other people, or look at Rob and say, I want to be him. And that's, oh my God, look how far away that is. It's just taking that first step and saying, you know what, I'm going to get the application, right? And then taking it one step further and letting it grow organically, right? So
because sometimes things seem scary when you look at, I want to be the CEO of a company or something. Sure. But if you say, I want to be this, and then you say, okay, once I accomplish this, then I can go to the next step. And if you give yourself a smaller goal and a very obtainable goal, and work forward with maybe a longer term projection, I think it definitely gives you a better sense of accomplishment.
That's great. And so we're going to wrap up now. So I just want to thank you, Rob, for coming on and sharing your story.
Thank you guys
for joining us.
Thank you, Angela, for setting this up.
Angela, thank you for setting this up and being a big cheerleader for us. And thank you for all our viewers, our Project Extra students in all the different grades. We know you showed up, and we're happy we were able to give you this forum to celebrate, as much as you can in our, the unique circumstance that we find. So just moving forward, just give you guys an idea of what's going on. Tomorrow we have Jillian Scholl and Michelle Lamonsoff. They're two physical therapists that'll be talking about their careers. And And then on Thursday, I'm calling it, or Allison and I are calling it our mental health school educator day. So we have Mr. Carbonetti, school counselor at the high school, Dr. Nina Weisenreiter, who's a high school psychologist, and Kathy Dunn, a middle school counselor, coming on the show together to talk about the work they do within schools, which is a little bit different than what your teachers do. And then on Friday, we have Glenn Myers, who is an aerospace and mechanical engineer who has not only worked on aircrafts and airplanes, but also on space shuttles. So, that would definitely be another interesting day. And we'll have some more the following week. But everybody, thank you so much. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Thanks.
Thank you, everybody.